It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Off and running. Welcome in another edition of Musso at the Box, presented by Got Lit Light Installers. LSU sweeps the opening weekend from Purdue Fort Wayne, and they do so in dominant fashion. We have a lot to get to because there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of takeaways from the three games that we saw from the Tigers over opening weekend. Of course, today we will obviously focus in plenty on Sunday's game because it's the only one that we haven't recapped given our live streams after the first two. But again, after that, we'll draw it back to some overall thoughts on the entire weekend. Smash the like button if you have not already. Get subscribed to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, and your favorite podcast app. Just search Musso at the Box. It's right there. Subscribe. Take us with you wherever you go. That is greatly, greatly appreciated. Follow me on social media as well. Those handles scroll on the screen below. And let's go ahead and get right into it. As I said, we will start with Sunday's game. So when you look back, Friday, 14-0 win. Dominant fashion. Cade Anderson, great. Saw some nice pieces out of the bullpen. No homers, but you hit the ball really well. Manufactured things. Saturday rolls around. 10-1 victory for LSU. Anthony Ianson, really nice debut. Again, more nice pieces out of the bullpen. The long ball shows up with the wind blowing out. All things great. You turn your attention to Sunday, and of course, all eyes to start that game are going to be on Chase Shores making his return. So that is where, of course, we will start. And we've talked plenty throughout the preseason, throughout all the scrimmages, things of that nature with Chase Shores about being patient, right? It's going to take some time. He might look great. He might have a few moments of mixed in there, but ultimately, you want to see how the stuff performs. You want to see what kind of pitch count they can get him to, how deep he can go into a game, and what type of situations he gets himself into and also gets himself out of too as he makes his first appearance in almost 2 years in an actual game. Chase Shores takes to the mound. The first pitch is over for a strike at 98 miles per hour, and it's like, all right, here we go. And, I mean, quite honestly, just in general, the first batter went pretty well. You got to a 3-2 count, but he gets the weak ground out to second base. Now, after that is when he would give up the back-to-back singles, but follow that up, line drive to the second baseman. That's 2 outs. But then you had the double steal, and a run ends up coming across before he strikes out the last hitter of the inning. And that really set the tone. After the last hitter of the inning, Chase Shores dialed in. And I thought when you look at his outing as a whole, he ends up retiring the next 12 batters that he faced after that first inning, which is really good. But you also saw him kind of, I don't want to say develop, but you saw some of the development that has already taken place. The off-speed pitches looked really good from Chase Shores. And you really started to see those the second trip through the lineup. He started to pitch backwards. And when you have the fastball that he has and the ability to land the slider like he was doing, that's when you take a step back, you look at him and go, okay, wait, yeah, no, he can be that guy. He can be really special. So would you have loved to see him go out there and throw shutout ball? Of course, you would have loved to have seen that. But what you saw was him get into a little bit of adversity and limit the damage, because when he strikes out Shirley to end the first inning, there's still a runner on second base. You still have a threat there, and he limits the damage. Then you go to the bottom of the first. LSU loads the bases with nobody out, doesn't get anything. That can be deflating for a pitcher as well. But Chase Shore comes back 3 up, 3 down in the second inning. So I thought the mix of pitches was very good. The one thing I did notice, the velocity did not hold all the way throughout the game. But we'll see if that just comes with some more time on the mound and, mechanics and all of those things and further development. First 2 innings, he was very much that 97, 98, topping at 99. The rest of the game, his last 2 innings, his last 3 innings were more 93 to 96 in that regard. But the best thing I saw from Chase Shores was the breaking ball. We had heard so much about how it was improving and things of that nature, and you did see it. He used that very effectively in this game against Purdue Fort Wayne. You add it all up for Chase Shores, you get 5 innings, 1 run, no walks, 7 strikeouts, 67 pitches, 44 strikes. That's a very, very good debut here in 2025, and you feel pretty good about your rotation as you run it back here next week. When you look at LSU offensively in the game on Sunday, we mentioned the first inning there. You load the bases. Stanfield singles to lead off. Then you have back-to-back walks. Bases loaded, nobody out. Jake Brown at the plate. You have Brown in that cleanup spot behind Jones this weekend, or excuse me, in game 3, something we had talked about wanting to see here. Unfortunately, Brown gets under one, pops it up on the infield fly. He's out. Danny Dickinson, who is really your hottest hitter all weekend until Sunday, comes up and laces a ball that looks like it is ticketed for the outfield, and it would have been had Purdue Fort Wayne not had him positioned perfectly, and it actually just hits the shortstop right in the chest, and he's out. That's a bummer. And then Ashton Larson would come up and strike out, and you get nothing out of that inning. From there, in the second and the third, you had a little bit of an opportunity in the third, ran yourself out of it. Stanfield trying to take an extra base. He gets thrown out, and you went quietly in the second. Enter the fourth inning, and that's where the game changed offensively. I will say this for Walters, Gavin Walters. He had the best stuff of any Fort Wayne arm that we saw this weekend. And his junior college numbers kind of tipped or leaned to that, right? I mean, he had the sub-3 ERA and all of that. You're like, okay, their pitching's going to get progressively better as they go throughout the course of the weekend. And it did. And Gavin, from a starting perspective, Gavin Walters, he was, 88, 91, probably one of the top-end arms of their team. Again, one of the best that we saw this weekend, and had a pretty nice breaking ball. When the lineup flipped for the second time, though, that's when LSU was obviously able to get things going. And that took place in the bottom of the fourth inning. Jake Brown comes back up. He falls behind quickly, 0-2, but pokes a single through the left side of the infield, beating the shift. That was great to see. And again, with 2 strikes, great little approach, way to shorten up and get it on. Dickinson walks on 4 straight pitches, and then Ashton Larson comes up and hits a bomb. He is ahead in the count 2-1 and just absolutely unloads on this baseball. 102 miles an hour off the bat, 368 feet. And the only reason it went 368 feet is because he hit this thing through the teeth of about a 13, 14 mile per hour wind straight out of the north. It did not look like any baseball was getting out of the box on Sunday, and Ashton Larson absolutely tattooed that ball to get LSU on the board and give them a 3-1 lead. At that point, they were still down 1-0. You'd add on a little bit more in that inning as well. Milam would follow up with a walk after Braswell was out. Luis Hernandez followed up with his first base hit as a Tiger, also beating the shift, going to the right side. Derek Curiel with an infield single. Then you had a throwing error. All of that allowed a run to come home. The 5th run of the inning, Milam scored on a wild pitch, and you end up with a 5 spot. And at that point, the game was pretty much academic. LSU would add another run in the 5th, make it 6-1. In the bottom of the 6th inning, Ashton Larson with the big blow yet again, a double down the left field line in a full count. So opposite field, great 2-strike hitting, scored 2 more runs. That gave LSU their final margin of 8-1, and it gave Ashton Larson 3 knocks and 5 RBI on the day, 7 on the season, tying him for the team lead. We'll come back to Ashton Larson, as I'm sure many of you expected. But that's kind of how the game went down from an offensive standpoint there. You did see some nice pitching as well. Grant Fontenot got in there, threw a shutout inning, punched out 2. Fastball was up to 95. You saw the slider from him a little bit more. That was great. William Schmidt makes his debut and was awesome. William Schmidt goes 2 2/3, faced 9 hitters, struck out 4, only gave up a hit, shutout ball. The hook was fantastic. The fastball was once again up to 97. I mean, William Schmidt, you couldn't have asked for a better debut for him in an LSU uniform, and you got some length. Right? We talked about what's his role going to be. Could he give you a spot start in the midweek? Could he be that middle relief guy for you? Maybe at the back end of the bullpen. He's a guy who can be very versatile for LSU. You saw the longer relief today, 32 pitches, 23 of those for strikes. I mean, he was awesome. And then Jaden Newt comes on to get the final out and punched out the hitter, which was great. He ended up facing 2 guys because Osterhaus got a knock with 2 strikes. That kid had a really good weekend. We talked about him in the preview that he was the one guy on Purdue Fort Wayne that really has MLB aspiration, like legit MLB potential, and he showed that this week. He was really good. But then Newt comes back, strikes out the 4-hole hitter, and ends the ball game. So there you go for LSU. It was an 8-1 win, and it punctuated a great weekend. Now, before we get into the weekend as a whole, I got to remind you about Got Lit Light Installers. Got Lit Light Installers, gotlitlights.com. You've heard us talk about them plenty over many guarantee platforms dealing with the Christmas lights. They have expanded the operation. Derek and his team are taking this thing one step further, but keeping the same customer service, relationship building with their clients, all of those things that make them great in the Christmas light space. They're bringing that to outdoor lighting in general. Private events, wedding, engagement party, graduation party. Graduations are coming up in May. You're going to host a party at your house. You need some lights. GotLitLights.com. Get a quote there. Maybe you just upgraded your backyard. Spring's coming. Did you put in a pool? You need some lightings to help illuminate or just upgrade the backyard experience at your home. Permanent landscape lighting available at Got Lit Lights. I'm telling you, you're not going to be disappointed. The product is top notch. Right up there with the customer service and the relationship building. It is custom designed to meet your every need. Any your dream you can come up with, they can do at Got Lit Lights. GotLitLights.com for a quote. Tell them you heard it right here on Musso at the Box. They're bringing it to you all season long. Overall thoughts on the weekend. I sat right here in this chair for the preview and said, LSU needs to go out there and look like LSU. And when the weekend's over, sure, it can be easy to hand wave it away and say, I was Purdue Fort Wayne. You're supposed to do that. Exactly. That was my take. Yeah, you are. LSU looks like a team ranked number 2 in the country with the transfer class they brought in, with the recruiting class they brought in, with what they had coming back. They look like a team that is a legitimate national championship contender. And it's not just me saying that. LSU has the second best odds in the country and the best odds in the SEC by some sports books to win the national championship. You needed to go out there and look like that team. I wanted to come out of this weekend with no questions. And then you go forward and we see if you can continue to build on it. Because a year ago, you came out of opening weekend with plenty of questions. And the weekend after that, the weekend after that. Our whole mantra, everything we've talked about is it has to come together faster for this team than it did a year ago. I give LSU a massive check mark in that box this weekend. LSU dominated an inferior opponent for 27 innings. 32 runs on 33 hits. You outscored them 32-2 over the course of 3 games. You saw the power. You saw the manufacturing of runs. You saw a great approach by LSU at the plate. LSU, over the course of 3 games, struck out 13 times. That is a great number. Great number. On Friday, LSU drew 8 walks. On Saturday, LSU drew 7 walks. On Sunday, LSU drew 8 walks. That's not even factoring in the hit by pitches and other free passes that they had. But from that ratio to the strikeout, Awesome weekend for LSU at the plate. And that included getting guy after guy after guy after guy up there. You saw Dalton Beck get 2 at-bats. You saw Ethan Fry come in pinch hit and also get a start. You saw Ashton Larson be phenomenal in a pinch hit role and then again in a start. Jake Brown hit over 400 this weekend. Derek Curiel was fantastic in his weekend debut. Chris Stanfield, the same way. You saw John Pearson get a knock. You saw Josh Pearson do. You get the picture? Like, you saw everybody really they could throw out there from an offensive standpoint, and they all had the uniform success that LSU had over the weekend. And yes, you could say some of that is the opponent, and sure, some of it is. Like the walks, a lot of that can be the opponent, but a lot of that is LSU taking really good ABs. I thought the at-bats were very patient, and there's one guy in particular that we're going to get to here momentarily on that. But offensively, no complaints from me. Would you have liked to have come through with the bases loaded in the first inning on Sunday? Sure. Would you have liked to maybe push across a little bit more against Zane Danielson, the starter, on Saturday? Sure. But you also scored 10 runs on 8 hits. Did you run yourself out of a couple of innings? Sure. But that's going to happen. When you're aggressive like this team is going to be, that's going to happen. And it's one weekend. I don't want to overreact to that. So for me, offensively for LSU, no complaints. I thought they were great. And you saw them excel at every single phase of offensive baseball. And that's what I'm most encouraged about. Some individuals offensively before we move on to pitching and defense. Jared Jones is where we're going to start. You probably thought we were going to start with Ashton Larson. No. Jared Jones is where we're going to start. Because Jared Jones, when you look at it for the course of the weekend for him, you see 286 and you think, okay. He hit the homer, drove in 3 runs. What's really good? You know what the best part of Jared Jones's game on opening weekend was? If you have a guess, shout it out. The best part of Jared Jones's weekend was his work at the plate. Jared Jones, over the course of 3 games, scored 6 runs, which is awesome. But he drew 5 walks, and he did not punch out. Not one time. And Purdue Fort Wayne, to their credit, they threw him some fastballs, but they also mixed in some breaking balls. And Jared Jones had some really, really good takes. He fought off pitches, and he earned walks. He earned some walks. You could go, and I might do this leading up or another point in the week here. Jared Jones, I think you're hard-pressed to go find another weekend throughout his career, his first 2 years at LSU, against any opponent where he played all 3 games and did not punch out. And that's what happened this weekend. We talked about Jared Jones having to be Jared Jones for this offense to reach its full potential this year. He was Jared Jones this weekend. You had the homer, like he hit 333 with runners in scoring position. But what takes that to the next level is that plate discipline that we're talking about right now. 5 walks, no strikeouts. I'm not telling you Jared Jones is going to do that every weekend. Of course he's not. But when you're looking for development and a guy to take his game to the next level and be the piece, the centerpiece of your lineup, you couldn't ask for a better start this weekend than that. Especially for a guy who's had problems with the swing and miss. The at-bats in between, that's what you look for. You saw them all this weekend from Jared Jones. He was great. Danny Dickinson, fantastic over the course of his first weekend as a Tiger. Danny Dickinson hit 556, drove in 7 runs, had a double and a homer. He has got to be an early favorite for SEC Player of the Week. And if he's not, one of his teammates might be, who we're going to get to next. But what you saw from Dickinson that I loved was that flat bat through the zone and just line drive after line drive after line drive. And when he got jammed on the ball Saturday, he was still able to muscle it up enough to get it into the wind and over the fence. Danny Dickinson, I look at him and I say, okay, that's a guy who I wouldn't mind see hit behind Jared Jones a little bit more. You want to put him in the 4-hole? Let's see. Let's see what he's got. Because those 7 RBI, mind you, all came in the first 2 games of this series. And if not for perfect positioning by Purdue Fort Wayne, he would have had another RBI single today, and he'd been at 9. Danny Dickinson saw the ball great in his first weekend as a Tiger and hit it on the button time and time again. He was fantastic. You should be very excited about him going forward. Then there's Ashton Larson, our guy. Big Ashton Larson show. We know that. Told y'all back after the first weekend of scrimmages, hey, Ashton Larson's still hitting the baseball. Remember the guy from last year as a freshman who was your leading hitter in conference play for like 2/3 of the conference schedule, ended up hitting 298 for the year as a freshman? That guy who forced his way into the starting lineup and then you just could never take him out? That guy? Yeah, he was still hitting the ball. Talked then, said it's going to be hard to keep him out of the lineup. I know you got the log jam in right field, but that kid just hits the ball and you're going to have to find a spot for him. And you look up, what happens? Ashton Larson gets the pinch hit AB on Saturday. Bullet up the middle, scores 2 runs. Earns the start off of that for Sunday. 3-hit day, 5 RBI, a bomb into the wind. And you look up after week number 1, and Ashton Larson is hitting .667, tied for your team lead with 7 RBI, had a double, a homer, and scored a run as well. Went 4 for 6. Ashton Larson better be in the lineup Tuesday against Southern. I don't care where you put him. I don't care if Ashton Larson plays on the moon as long as he can hit in this lineup. Because the kid just hits the ball. The sample size continues to grow. I know we like to look at everything as we go, it's one weekend. But the sample size continues to grow when you look at what he did a season ago, you look at him in the preseason, and you look at him right here on opening weekend when he only got 1 start, and he turns in that. That's how this all began a year ago. Remember that. That's how this all began a year ago. Was you just kept putting him in the pre-conference, and he kept delivering, and he kept delivering, and you finally gave him a shot, and then you couldn't take him out of the lineup anymore. I'm at that point already with him here this season. There's going to be a point where they are too, where you just cannot justify not having Ashton Larson in the lineup. He was awesome. Derek Curiel had a great debut this weekend. Had a home run, scored twice, drove in 3, hit over 300. He looks the part of everything that we talked about so far, doesn't he? Thought Chris Stanfield, obviously, great. 400 average, had a hit in all 3 games. So he started off on a 3-game hit streak. Was very productive at the top of your lineup. Drew some walks to go along with those 4 hits. Thought he was fantastic. And I thought Jake Brown had a really nice weekend as well. He definitely had a good day Sunday that he needed to have. And then the last thing I want to talk about with the offensive side is the catcher position, because you saw 3 out of the 4. Hernandez got 2 starts, Aaron Beatty 1, but Priester got in each game. Got in at bat as well, but he punched. Right now, this is a battle between Hernandez and Aaron Beatty. And Aaron Beatty, while he had a few problems behind the plate Saturday, Anthony Ianson didn't do him a bunch of favors. He spiked a lot of breaking balls out in front of the plate that are just very, very difficult to block. I think one of them actually hit the plate. But he stung the ball Saturday and didn't have anything to show for it. He finally got his first hit on Sunday. So that's going to be interesting to see how that goes about. The thing with Priester, I think Priester is fine behind the plate. I think he receives the ball well. I think he blocks the ball well. The offense is just not there right now. And I understand you're going to give up offense for defense at a premium position like catcher, but you have to at least put the ball in play. And that has been a problem for Blaze Priester here the last couple of weeks, going back to scrimmages. Hernandez at least puts the ball into play. You know, he got his first hit on Sunday. So, I mean, I think you're looking at Hernandez and Aaron Beatty, and I will continue to say, I think if they have it their way, they might not tell you this, but if they have it their way, by midseason, Cade Aaron Beatty is the everyday catcher for this team. I don't know if you're going to get there. He's a freshman. There's a lot to learn. You still have to go through SEC play, all of those things. Hernandez is much more of a veteran guy, so it makes sense why he got the nod. But Aaron Beatty is definitely the highest upside player they have at catcher. There's just some things to work on there. So we'll continue to monitor that and see how it goes. Pitching. Let's start with the rotation. 2 thumbs up. Cade Anderson was awesome on Friday, y'all. He was great. 83 pitches, 5 shutout, no walks, 8 strikeouts. Saw 3 pitches from him. You didn't really see the changeup much, but you saw that slider that they've been working on, and it was damn good. The 12-6 breaking ball they has is still awesome, and the velocity on the fastball was there. He handled the moment great. No nerves there for Anderson. I didn't really expect any. That's a guy who was starting games on the road for you in the midweek in a pretty hostile environment in Southeastern. I mean, that's their World Series when LSU comes to town for that game. So I get it. Opening day start at the box, a little different, but he handled that great. And I mean, that speaks to the leadership that they've talked about with him to start the season as well. So I thought Anderson was great. Can't wait to see him get start number 2 on Friday in a week. Anthony Ianson, loved seeing him for the first time. That splitter is really, really nice. The fastball velo was great. He got to 95 a couple of times, punched out 6, walking body. Great debut. He gave up a run, had to work himself out of some trouble in the second and the third, but he did so deep counts. The thing that impressed me most with Anthony Ianson were the longevity he was able to give you after the deep counts early. You finished 2 innings, he's right there right around 40 pitches. He's close. He wasn't quite there. I think he was around like 36, 38, somewhere in that realm. And he ends up getting you through 5 and throws 81. He really settled in, became more efficient, and I guess maybe there's some little nerves there or whatnot, but he finished so strong. 2 thumbs up there. You look forward to him in the next start in a week. And then Chase Shores, we talked about it right off the top. I think for not having pitched in almost 2 years in a game, that is as great of a return and season debut you could have hoped for Chase Shores. The slider, you could definitely see the development there. The fastball was very good, as it always is. He punched out 7, didn't walk anybody, got you through 5 complete. Each of your starters got you through 5 complete. Each of them got the win. It was great. It was great. Now, you'll go forward and face Omaha next weekend, and we'll get a second start from each of those 3 guys. And we'll see if they can follow up with the same success. I don't see why not. They were great. Your bullpen. Yeah. You like that? Little Kirk Cousins there. You like that? You like Kason Evans, who was a top 20 shortstop in high school baseball, coming in and throwing 98 past people with no shred of nerves at all in his first appearance at the box. You like Maverick Rizzi, 6'9", coming in, throwing 98 past people with an absolutely wipeout breaking ball. You like that? It's good. That plays. You like William Schmidt going 2 2/3 shutout. You like DJ Primo coming in, reaching back, grabbing 94 from the left side. That's pretty good. Those are all things that you saw. Those are all things that you saw. Dominance out of the bullpen for LSU all weekend long. They did not allow an earned run, and they punched out batter after batter after batter after batter. And you know what the best part about it is? LSU didn't even use Gavin Guidry and Connor Ware yet. You have 2 of your best relievers still waiting to make their season debut. The depth of this staff was on full display. And again, we can look at it and say, yeah, Purdue Fort Wayne, they're not very good. And they're not. They're not. They were picked last in their league. They won 19 games a year ago. They're not very good. But the amount of strikes that LSU threw plays against anybody. And that's what was most impressive. When I look at the LSU pitching staff week 1, We could talk about the rotation, and we just did, how great they were. We can talk about the litany of arms that you brought out of the bullpen. We didn't even mention Connor Benj coming in, throwing 96, blowing it past people as well. Cooper Williams was great. When I look at it, though, in its totality, the thing I look at, LSU walked 2 and struck out 45. That is pounding the zone. And that plays against anybody. And when you have the stuff that this staff does, you have a chance to lead the nation in strikeouts again like you did a year ago. 2 walks, 45 Ks over 3 games. That is my takeaway from the pitching staff. And oh, by the way, you haven't even seen Gavin Guidry or Connor Ware yet. 2 guys who you're counting on in that bullpen. Most likely at the back end for at least one of them. I think they're both candidates to get plenty of time against Southern on Tuesday, and then maybe again even against Nichols. One of those guys probably going to start one of those games, I would think. Maybe. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how Jay handles that and which direction he takes it. But the fact that you were that dominant without those 2 guys on the mound, that should get you really, really excited. I know it gets me very excited. And it just shows you the depth that this staff has and the potential that it could go throughout the rest of the season. You're going to pare it down. Guys will separate themselves. But I think you're going to have some pitchers who are really good that it might be tough to get innings for. So, all around, y'all, that was great. Last but not least, defense. You were really good. You were really, really good. LSU committed 2 errors this weekend. One was a catcher's interference, which, okay, that happens, and it doesn't happen very often. And it never happened to Hernandez again the rest of the weekend. Forgivable. The other was a throwing error by DJ Primo. Your infield, errorless ball. Your outfield, errorless ball. You were damn good in the field. You checked every box. You dominated, and you looked like the contender everyone thinks that you are. Now, it's 3 games. You got 53 more of these things. And the competition is going to get harder and all of that. But you don't come out of opening weekend with many questions about this team. Will questions arise? Sure. But this is not the time in the season I want the questions to arise. We can have some after next week. I'm okay with that. I expect that actually a little bit. But LSU passed every test they were given in opening weekend with flying colors, and it resulted in a dominant sweep. So hat tip to that team. They've been going about things the right way. There's plenty to like. And it was on full display for 3 games. LSU, 3-0. 3-game sweep over Purdue Fort Wayne, 14-0 on Friday, 10-1 on Saturday, 8-1 on Sunday. They welcome in the Southern Jaguars on Tuesday for game number 4 of the season. That is a 2:00 first pitch out at the box. We will definitely have a post-game show for you there. We'll have another complete full week of coverage here on Musso at the Box. Of course, brought to you by Got Lit Lights, gotlitlights.com. That's going to wrap it up here for today. Be sure to smash the like button on your way out. Get subscribed if you haven't already, YouTube and your favorite podcast app. Follow on social media and be here next time for more on Musso at the Box.